every athlete, every person, every human being has an opportunity. Some opportunities don't come when you want them. But if you're prepared, good opportunities can happen. Always be ready, because you never know when your number is going to get called.
I'm not coming back.
Emmy Apparel. Encourage me. I'm young.
Calvin T. Mann, leading Emmy, served over 20,000 youth through speaking, coaching, and mentoring. He has inspired us for years. Welcome to EMIYTV Podcast with your host, Calvin T. Mann, the Encourager.
Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Today is the day. Today is June 9th. It's been
The 9th?
Is it the 9th or the 10th?
I do believe it's the 10th.
It's the 10th. Today is the 10th. Excuse that rude interruption by the people in the room. Welcome to EMIYTV Podcast. Put your family first. Today's discussion is off the charts, right? Because I've been wanting to do this. And so when I was approached today by this stalker, I had a stalker in the office, and I was literally approached like, we're going to do the thesis of Mount Carmel. And I said, no, not today. Today, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to officially be introduced to the real Heather Hatteru Miller. Say hello, Heather.
Hello, Heather.
Woo! Yes. Right, and the famous Monique is in the building. So, thank you for being here. And so I really want to get into it because there's a lot. And a lot of you don't know. There are people outside right now. There are people in programs. There are people running programs that was assisted by this person. And a lot of times we have this discussion, I have these discussions, I have this talk about loyalty and who gives what and how it looks and where it comes from and why this community, this nonprofit community, this community that surrounds and how people are forgotten. So just like when I'm speaking, I'm always mentioning the people that was in my neighborhood that grew up, that helped me. I'm always mentioning my godfather. I'm always mentioning my middle school coach. So these are the people that played a significant role into me attaining to this position in life. I am not here without it. I always mention the work that we did when I was coaching basketball and things like that. But when I met Miss Heather, so we're going to get right into this. When I met Miss Heather was 2009. I was literally driving across town. I heard the radio interview and I ran over. And she was at Vanguard CDC. Now, let's be clear. When I walked in, my passion was on my sleeve. And, I had no idea what God was doing to me at the time. But I knew, right, I needed some help. I heard the voice. And so I showed up. But little did I know over the years through our friendship and now this exclusive relationship, my monogamous marriage or whatever you want to call this thing, that she has me locked in. I'm saying there's a lot. And so I want to start because I'm going to interrupt her quite a bit because it's so much that a lot of people don't know how many jobs and businesses and people she's helped, right? And it's an amazing thing, right? It's an amazing thing because a lot of times when we look at, there are over 53,000 nonprofits in Michigan. the community shouldn't look that way. So something is obviously wrong, right? But this is not one of those stories, right? Your contribution, her contribution is very, very high. And so I want to start 1988, Central High School, and you were the Monique, she was the president of the, and I need you to take it from there because you were rewarded by the Congressional Black Caucus. So tell that story.
Wow. So I have to go back, just take a step back a little bit to when I was 12. That's really where my community advocacy and activism work began. And it started with just trying to defend the tree that was in front of my house.
Nope.
So I have to go back there. I'm not staying there, but I got to go back there.
All right.
So that was my first interaction with having a voice and believing that I could make a difference.
Okay.
And that was in a more public way outside of my family. And so that then led me into middle school and high school, and I've always been active. I've been an active student. I was an active in the social organizations at school. So one of the reasons why I was able to earn that Congressional Black Caucus scholarship was because one of my community ventures was with George Crockett.
Okay.
And so it was through George Crockett that I earned a scholarship through my community work. That I was acknowledged for that in high school. And it earned me a scholarship to Tennessee State University.
Okay.
And so, but because of one of the advisors and one of our teachers, Mr. Stevens, he made sure I was a part of the voter registration campaign prior to even being old enough to vote. That was important for me. And I worked on Jesse Jackson's campaign in Detroit. And so
Jesse.
Right. And so I did that work with Mr. Stevens. Mr. Stevens then recommended me to be delegate for, when they called us delegates at the time, for Congressman George Crockett. And so through that process and through all of my community work and all the activism, so a lot of people don't know a lot that I was involved in.
Yeah.
So it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. I was very visible. I was very vocal. So that kind of started me on this path. And so being given that honor when I went to Tennessee State, I was involved at Tennessee State. I was part of the yearbook team, so that meant that it was research, it was photos, it was interviews, it was, again, expressing my voice to gather a lot of information, because that particular book has 80,000 publications.
Right.
So it went around the world, and so I was really active during the 3 years of that, which by my senior year, which was my fourth year, I should say, I was the editor of the yearbook.
Okay.
So I worked my way up to that.
So that's another head, right? So we got editor.
So by the time I graduated, let me say this, by the time I graduated from college, I probably already had about 25 jobs.
Okay. So,
yeah.
Right. So in the 25 jobs, right, she probably tried to do all 25 at the same time, right?
I did work multiple jobs, yes.
Right. So the 25 jobs, right? And so that's, to some people, that's where she's been, under the radar. And so when you talk about valuing and appreciating someone, right? I've watched people who have not even done a quarter, right? But because, she's not cliquish or those types of things, we have this person that has been helping thousands of people. So then you go to Grand Valley.
Yes. So I make a transition because I really wanted my degree to be in advertising, and they didn't offer it at Tennessee State. But it allowed me to have my advertising degree, but also public relations. So I was exposed to communication. When I was at Tennessee State, I was a DJ. And so that was another one of my jobs. So yeah, and so. It's so funny when I think about, if I told you guys all the stuff that I did, you would not believe me.
We are about to venture in, right? So that's good, right? Because those things, kind of shape. And so now...
Wow. Yeah. So I'm sorry. I'm just having flashbacks. Go ahead.
Right, right. And so now you graduate from Grand Valley. What is the first job you take when you graduate from Grand Valley?
So the first assignment that I had was with Arthur Carter, and Arthur Carter was introducing a new voter process, a new voting machine process to the city of Detroit. It was not accepted by the city of Detroit. However, one of the opportunities that I had was that there's a police station there. It's where that Myers is on Grand River. But where the police station is, it was a African Heritage Center museum. So it had these animatronic figures that talked about our history and culture. So not just recent history, it talked about our ancient history. And so I was, and under Arthur Carter being mentored under Arthur Carter, I had been exposed to a lot of things. I didn't even know that it existed. And so it was a part of, I believe it was a part of Detroit Public Schools at that time. So my first assignment was with Arthur Carter. It was around helping to introduce that new voter machine and process. It was also around helping people gain awareness around our history and culture, because that was huge for me at Tennessee State. That was part of the work that I did.
Right. So now we come out of Arthur Carter. What's the next?
So it's 2 or 3 positions after that. But during that time was when I was invited back to the Congressional Black Caucus Spouses Scholarship Fund, and I was an MC then. And so they flew me in, and it was probably the most money I had ever seen in one place. I always share that story because it was my first exposure to that kind of wealth in one space.
That's not over, baby.
No, I'm not saying that, but that was.
Okay.
And if you can understand, these are senators and congressmen from all over the country and their spouses. And so some of the things I saw just kind of blew my mind that it even existed in real life. So that was important for me because it helped set a tone and the possibilities of what you can do.
Right.
And so it opened my world to make me a lot more bold in what I was trying to do. So
welcome back to Bold. So here we go. So from there, right?
So my one of the more significant, like I said, I worked for the Warehouse Club at the time.
Right.
I did a lot of those kinds of things. But when the next major assignment, I'll say, was at WC3.
Okay.
So I started at WC3 as an assistant program coordinator. I learned a lot about that work. I then became second vice president of our union. I held that position until I left. So I was there for about 4, almost 5 years at WC3. And I worked with a lot of major corporations. One of the advantages of having that position was that I was also able to take those classes. Any class that I set up, I took, because I wanted to have the skill set. So I'm certified in pesticides. It was one of the classes that I offered. So
you hear that, Moni?
I know, it's so funny. But it helped me to build relationships with and I'm drawing a blank now, but it's one of the environmental departments of the state, and I got to work with them. So I got to work on some specific projects and be introduced and exposed in a way that I couldn't if I didn't have that certification, and 2, if I didn't have that position.
So let me ask you this question, because it's really important to me, right?
Okay.
So when you were doing this, what was it that made you just stay right in this time, stay under the radar and not be?
Honestly, when I started off this career trying to find a way to help build and restore our community through family.
All right, talk to me. Now we getting there.
And so the different pathways that I took to get there, it was, I've worked in several different industries and with several different companies, trying to find that I thought it was one path.
Right.
And I didn't realize until, some years later when I met you, I realized that it was multiple paths to get there. But I started off thinking that, if a person can get a job, then they can take care of their families and all is well.
So a lot of people are not appreciative, right? So when we get into, because you coming out of WC3, right, which is now named after
Wayne County Community College District.
Right, but it's one of the places is named after the president now. That's the president.
Curtis Ivory?
Right.
Okay.
So then there was that situation, right?
No, yeah.
Right, and then you moved from WC3 to what was the next?
So, but just let me say for WC3, just to take a step back, the reason why I fought over those years to make sure, and with the corporations, that people of color were able to advance, because it was a lot of roadblocks to people of color, for black men especially, to advance through corporations. And so I did a lot to open doors. Everybody that needed a job in my neighborhood got a job. If I knew about it, they got it. And I made sure that those doors were open. Not just for my community, but the people who I knew, the families. A lot of people got hired. Every corporation I worked for had to hire at least 10 to 15 people that I knew.
You hear that again, Mommy?
And so
you're following this, right?
So, because I had to work with hiring managers, I had to work with training managers. I was very particular, and I had names, and I had addresses, and I was taking no was not an option.
Right. So
that was important. So the next opportunity that I moved into was Detroit Public Schools.
So DPS. Mm-hmm. So you're in DPS. This is 90.
This is, let's see, 97, maybe 97, 98.
Okay, so somewhere in there, right, in the 90s. So you at DPS, and you're doing what at DPS?
I was a compact coordinator, and I also raised funds for with Detroit Executive Service Corps for some of the schools. So I was working in philanthropy.
Still in the community, still quiet. People that don't even have that experience, getting jobs behind her, right? You got a lot of backdoor going on, right? She experienced a lot of that. So when you move after you come out of DPS, because at DPS, when you leave Detroit Public Schools, what was next?
Ooh, okay. So after Detroit Public Schools, I moved to Georgia. I moved to Stone Mountain, Georgia. And I was a director of a child care learning center. So
now we're in the child care.
Mm-hmm. So this is when I moved to
Georgia.
But this is also where I decided, okay, maybe if I started from the beginning of life, maybe this is where I make the impact, and this is where it is. So it didn't work. So it wasn't enough to be able to get people jobs. You had to change their mindset. And so I thought, well, maybe if I start at the very beginning of life, this is where it is.
Right.
Right.
And how was that venture? You were in...
It was...
Excuse me?
It was amazing because I had a chance to work with some amazing people. So I had a staff of 35. I had about 224 kids in the program from 3 months to age 8. And I was excited because the 3-year-olds had a curriculum. The 3-month-old had curriculum. Everybody had curriculum. Everybody had a plan for how they were going to learn and grow.
And what kind of boss did you have then?
The owner was the boss. The owner was very money driven. She was you could not squeeze a penny, and she had a lot of the staff do multiple jobs. To save money. So one pay, and you had multiple jobs that you had to do. which was disrespectful.
And so what kind of car did she get out into? Watch this, Money.
So I'm not a big car person, so it was a high-end car, so Mercedes or BMW, that line of car.
So the point for that, right, is we strategically, we have businesses, and this is not to knock it, but we have businesses, and we put so much pressure on the business because we gotta front, right? So we gotta have this most expensive car, but we don't take care of what we really got into it for. So we have businesses where people get into business and they get in it just because there's money there and they hear that there's money there, but then it's not a care type of thing, right? So the people, if it's that thing, if it's a daycare, right? Remember the key word to daycare is care, right? And so it's not care for you to have, of course you can have it if you got multiple, but one daycare and you putting that kind of strain on yourself. So, right. So I get that. And then it causes a situation and two, not taking care of the people that you have, because we see that consistently throughout community and business and things like that. We pull up in the bands of the business, and the business is strained because we not understanding what Crystal would be talking about, the finance part, understanding your financials and what that look like. And so, but we can look across the ocean and you will see the owner of a business pull up in a older model car and the business is thriving, right? So it's just difference in mindset, like you were saying. So from there, when did you start at United Way?
Oh, let's see. It was a few assignments that I had before I joined.
Okay, what were those?
Let's see. Okay, one I worked for Metro Times.
Wow, Metro Times. Who I can't get an article yet.
I also worked as a bank evaluator for mostly around customer service, because there was some reports of racism. So that was one of the assignments that I had. And so to basically evaluate the staff, their processes, were they community friendly? So yeah, so I had to evaluate, and a lot happened around that.
But give us. I want the story about how you took on WC3, right, for in the union. What did you give me that story? Okay, so got taking a step back. So at WC3, I started because I have a voice, and there were some things that I was not happy about, and I thought some things were unfairly and unjustly done for the employees. And then I went to the union, and as I was a member of the union, just as a member of the union, I had a lot to say, and I had a lot of ideas. I had a lot of suggestions, and so they said, well, since you have all these ideas, you need to be on this side of the table where you can implement them. And so I went through some extensive training on union negotiations and writing contracts, and the stewardship of being an officer. And because I wasn't a steward, I was an actual officer. So I had a lot more to do with what was happening, what was being enforced, that kind of process. And it was during a time where President Ivory was just joining WC3, and all the changes that were making prior to his tenure, and then during the first 2 or so years of his tenure. Awesome. And see, I'm the reason why I'm asking this and going through this process, right?
Because you're unearthing something.
Well, not just that, right? There's a lot of experience that, I tell you this all the time. There's a lot of experience that you have that, right, is on the table, and a lot of times it's not necessarily appreciated. So this was a way for us to, kind of navigate that space, because when we come back after this commercial, we're going to get into your stint at just before we met.
Wow.
You can handle that.
Oh, sure.
Are you an indie podcast or content creator looking to reach a wider audience? Look no further. Introducing Podcastic, the ultimate podcast network designed exclusively for indie creators like you. At Podcastic, we believe in the power of unique voices and fresh perspectives. We're here to amplify your passion and creativity, connecting you with a growing community of engaged listeners who crave original content. Podcastic is more than just a platform. It's a support system built for indie podcasters, offering a range of resources to help you succeed. From tailored promotional campaigns to professional production assistance, we're here to help you shine. Our intuitive platform makes it easy for you to be seen and heard. We do all the heavy lifting for you. You just show up and create. Plus, with our advanced analytics, you'll gain valuable insights into your audience's preferences, allowing you to refine your content and grow your fan base. Ignite your passion, expand your reach, and thrive with podcasting. Visit our website at www.podcasticlife.com to get started. Podcastic, the home for indie podcasts and content creators.
So thank you. Yes. So now that's the first phase. There's plenty of stories that was left out, right? So before we go to the next, when did the writing for you on the million books that you hold, when did the writing become important to you?
Well, writing has always been important to me. You know, that goes back to I was 5 when I started to learn how to read and write.
Okay.
So it goes all the way back to my beginnings, really. But I have always had to write because I needed to express my voice, and some things are not meant to be said publicly. So I had to find a way to be able to say what I needed to say. And refine what was being said. So I started to write. I started to journal. My expression has been mostly through poetry, and so during that phase of my life, when I was, I went from Nzinga the Warrior, which is part of what was poured out of me when I was in college, and then I became Jazz, J-A-S, Just Another Sister, when I started to write at that level and started to move around the community and sharing that poetry, sharing my journey through poetry.
Yeah, right. Yeah, because
So
again, I mean, right, there are people that don't know you that has literally, like, I am, I'm a rabid fan, and I have been. Right, since our friendship, right, and it was just important because there's a trait about you that a lot of people took advantage of, in my opinion, when I hear the stories, right? Because your ability and your trait to loyalty is rare, whereas another person, they see that as an opportunity to take advantage, and I just was like, that's just crazy. That a jewel of this magnitude, right, was not truly being taken care of, and in my opinion, this is me speaking, or respected and honored enough, right? And so, as I continue to pour out here, now, when I come along another time, that's when, after that, then there's the Vanguard, where I met you at. How did you end up there?
Again, these are assignments, so I am nowhere God has not placed me. A lot of my opportunities have been very narrow, very competitive, and that particular position with Vanguard was, I actually waited a year for that position. And when the day I started, I got promoted. So I moved from a business manager to a director in the same day. And the work that I did in all of it. And please understand that all through this journey, it was because there were people who were placed in my path to help support. So by no means has this been a Heather only show. So let me make that clear as we go. So when I started there, I knew I was on assignment, and I knew that was the position that I was supposed to have. I didn't exactly know once I started, I had to create a department. So there was not a economic and business development department. I had to create that. And so I had to create that also.
Another business that was created.
With the undertone of a small business incubator. And so I came on board to create a small business incubator. And then, again, I got promoted to a director of business and economic development. So what that meant was that most of the major programs that were out of Vanguard were under my department. So I had a Next Steps program, which was for returning citizens. I worked with Alea and Lottie and their youth development and entrepreneurship program. So again, that fell up under economic development. I had a entrepreneurial training program, which you were actually part of that program. I had those 3 programs, and I had the small business center. So the small business incubator was both brick and mortar and virtual. So we had office space, we had units, and we also had virtual clients. So everything about that process was built, including my staff, because I had no staff. The first year of my program, I had no staff, so I had to create opportunities with no resources, no money, no funding. Everything that I did out of that was very innovative and strategic. So that's why I know I can stretch a dollar and make something work and make something happen.
So tell the story about when you had to open it and what happened.
So there's a scripture that talks about don't touch my anointed, and it's a little bit of it's a hard process to share, because somebody passed away through this process because they didn't honor the agreement that they had set. So I went through a contractor's training class so that I would know the ins and outs of creating a small business center, because we actually had to do a renovation and a construction. So it was we had to have it gutted and then start it from scratch. And so we had a 6,000 square foot space. I want to say 6,000. So anyway, so we had to create offices out of it. And so a friend to this day, an ally for me to this day, Derek Lee Hecka, we worked tirelessly on that small business incubator. So he is an architect by trade and profession. And so he was the one that actually designed Milwaukee Junction Small Business Center. And so we both put our hands together to try to make that project work, because 3 months into the project, the renovation project, the contractor that I had left with the money. Oh, no. And we had 2 months until our grand opening, and he disappeared. I went to his house to find out what happened, and as a lot of contractors do, and I actually had to, I did not know what happened because I couldn't get in touch with him. So he left tools there, so I knew he had to come back. But like I said, he disappeared for 2 months on this project, and by the 3rd month, I locked myself in the conference room. I had another sister that was with me, one of my assistants. I locked myself in the room, asked her to come in and pray with me, because we're 2 or more gathered, right? God is in the midst. So I asked her to come in and pray with me. We prayed. She didn't know what was going on. A lot of people didn't know what was going on, because I didn't want to expose him and not know what was going on, but I was running out of time. And so she prayed with me. I asked her to leave. I said, Lord, I'm not leaving this room until you tell me what to do. Because now not just my word is on the line, my integrity is on the line, and I trusted this particular contractor. And so I had to account for what happened, where we are at this point. So I prayed, and I want to tell you, like, within 24 hours, he came into the building. And I asked him what happened, and he said, well, I had another project. I was trying to get that done, and I used the money from your project for that project. I ran out of money. I ran out of time, and so I kind of panicked, and I took on another project. And so he was just moving money around, which a lot of contractors do. That's how they float their team to get jobs done. So I understood that, because that was one of the things that we talked about in contractors class, that it was not a good method to manage your business, right? And so I had him write out a promissory note, a letter of agreement of things he had to do. He was going to have to pay that money back, but he was going to have to help get this project done. Well, again, he disappeared for another month. And within that month, he was killed in a car accident. Wow. And so not only did he still have the money, he left me without a contract. And of course, sympathy to his family. But again, he did not keep his word. He made that promise. I told him before he left, I said, you have to understand who you're making this promise to. You think you're making it to me. I said, this is a God project. You cannot afford to mishandle your word on this. I said, are you going to keep your word? He was like, yes. I said, so within a few weeks, I found out through his partner that he was killed in a very violent car accident.
Rest in peace.
Yes, absolutely. And so, but I still had this work. And so I asked some of the contractors that were in my contractors class if they would come and help support me and get this project done. And we worked 24 hours or at least 18 hours a day until we had that project done. So I had people who sponsored food for them to come, people who maxed out their Home Depot cards to get some stuff done. It was a labor of love. It was a labor of love. And so, like I said, I had 6 contractors work on that project to help get that renovation done. And we were putting door handles on while they were getting ready to set up for the grand opening for the ribbon cutting.
So,
right.
Right?
We worked to the wire. Yes, I put those.
Another instant, right? Because again, how you treat people, how you meet people, how you greet people is how you treat people, how you keep people, right? So opportunity was there for them to care for her, right? Opportunity was there for them to honor, and it was everything but that, right? So we go on. That was around for at least 10 years, if not still around, right? And I'm telling you, when I walked in, it was 2009 when I met her, right?
And you were one of the businesses there too.
And I was one of the businesses, right? So then there were a number of businesses that was created through that work, right? And then there was always
I serviced personally 8,000. Our work together was around 20,000 people we helped during that time.
So you see,
that's why I knew it was an assignment.
Right?
It was an assignment.
So in that process, again, when we talk those numbers, those businesses not necessarily in business, right? It's just that we started these many businesses, right? And we helped put the infrastructure on these many businesses, right? And because of the individual mindset part, a lot of our businesses don't make it because we don't hire our own culture. We don't school our own culture. We think that once we get into business, it's me versus you, right? And then we play this whole game. Anyway, so now you come out of Vanguard, right? And then you're over at, I think you started at Detroit Impact.
Oh, so I've been a part of Detroit Impact for a good 20 8 years.
All right. So when did you
28 years.
when did you
Good
join and get involved with Detroit Impact?
I got involved with Detroit Impact as part of our commitment to our 10-year reunion. So from Central. So my promise to my classmates was that in 10 years I was going to organize our first class reunion. And so I worked tirelessly to just get enough people involved. And so a lot of our classmates were involved, and a lot of them have gone on to be involved in the reunions that we've had up to present day. So amazing, because it's definitely a labor of love.
Right.
So out of one of our commitments from some of the women was that we recognized that it was a lot happening with the girls in the school.
Okay.
And so we organized a lock-in, and some of the people who were there at the lock-in, some of the women who came through or stayed with us, Joanne Watson was one of them, Sharon McPhail was another one, Alberta Tinsley Talabi, she was one of them, just to name a few. A lot of the teachers that were teachers when we were there came through. We had, again, it was a lock-in, so we had probably somewhere around 75 girls there. We had a chance to bond with them, and so they were asking us, so what are we doing after this? You know, are we going to have a program? Are we going to be able to stay connected with you? So we started a program at Detroit Impact. My mother was working with Detroit Impact. She was getting educated on how to be and make community impact. So she was a part of that group with Roosevelt Elementary School before they tore it down. So she was a part of that group, that committee of community patrol.
Right.
And so that's what a lot of the parents who were in our neighborhood were looking to do. So
you see where I'm at?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to really keep having this conversation because I know we got time, because I know we could go. I can talk about the ventures and things like that you have done. So you go through Detroit Impact, which you're still a part of till this day.
I'm on the board now. So yes, I worked all the way up through Detroit Impact. Yes.
Of course, you come along on EMI, right? You get involved with EMI.
Focus Hope.
From Focus Hope, right? Your stint at Focus Hope was another thing where you did workforce development.
I did.
Right? And what was the success rate of your workforce development?
What was the
success rate?
Oh, so while our program, our methodology for Focus Hope earned us another level of reputation around how we were able to cultivate a workforce, and those who came through our program were able to set the pace for a lot of corporations and a lot of companies. So they were able to stay employed for over a year. They got there on time. So their whole work ethic is what we worked to help elevate for the students that we had.
Right.
Yep, that were trainees. So
Yeah, but come on with the percentage, the rate, the graduation, the whole success rate.
Our success rate. So it was in two different levels, or three different levels. One, some of our students came in at a 6th grade reading level, and most of them left with, and I'm saying like within 8 to 10 weeks, left with either a 11th grade or higher GPA. Their test results, right?
Right.
So, but part of the process was that they had to go through this mindset shift. They had to go through our portal, if you will. My partner was Monderell Ross. They called us the fire and the stone. So once they went through his initiation, they then came to me. And my portion was to help them do really deep reflection and find who they really are, so that they see their value. And then once you see your value, then what you learn in terms of your academics comes a lot easier, and you are ready to work harder for what you really believe, because you know you believe in you. And so that changed the mindset. So it opened the door for people to excel and actually be who they know that they could be or didn't know that they could be. And so they took that into the workplace, and that's what became valuable to them.
Right. So now that we are in this position where we are right now, right, we're breaking this down, right? And like I said, you come out of Focus Hope, it's Encourage Me, I'm Young. I want you to do a brief, as brief as you can be, right, on the recognition from the Supreme Court.
Okay, so wow. Okay, so for me, this is one of my greatest accomplishments because I am not an attorney, but I was able to write a appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court, to our highest court in the land, over a discrimination case that the person who was a part of that discrimination case had tried to appeal, and her appeals were rejected. So I took over her documentation, I rewrote it, and I rewrote it to the standards, to the standards. So it was a lot of research that was involved in that. It was a lot of documentation that's involved because you have to cite cases and you have to, bring a lot of evidence. Anyway, when I sent it to be presented to the Supreme Court, it was heard. And so there are very few court cases that reach the Supreme Court that they actually hear. Now, they withheld the state appeal, but they actually did hear my appeal. And like I said, that was one of the most accomplishments of my lifetime, to have my case heard in that court.
Last piece, and thank you for that. Last piece. Where did you get your sense of dress from?
My style of dress?
Yes.
It started with my shoes. And my mother's mother, we call her Grams, always wore heels. She liked mules, and so I couldn't do mules. But as long as I've been walking, I've been in her heels. And so my first pair of heels of my own, I was 11. It was Easter. And from that point, I wore heels. If you didn't see me in heels, you saw me in no shoes.
Still
so
to this day.
To me, it was a representation of femininity. It was sensual. It was an identity that resonated with me from the very beginning. So I liked being feminine. I liked dresses. Like, of course, I was a tomboy at a sort too. Yeah, but even then, I would always go back to what I felt comfortable in and what I felt good in. I like the way I feel in my clothes.
Awesome.
Yeah, I
So,
like the colors too.
So this is just a little bit of who this person is, like just a little bit, but I want you to really, first of all, I am so proud that you were able to endure that, because it will shape the next two levels that you are attaining to. Right? It will come a time that those things have always played a part. You had got us to an award-winning certified nonprofit, right? Through passion and purpose and drive, we've been able to accomplish a lot together. But I'm very proud of what you have done, right? And because you weren't like the people that, in my opinion, that took advantage, or the people that didn't hold true to their word. There were some people, friends, whatever, they couldn't hold true to their word because they were not loyal. And you happen to have a real trait of loyalty, and that's what is needed as we continue the work that we do going forward. And the dress, is on point. We continue to grow, right? But the next thing, and this is the last thing, on June 22nd, the Honor Thy Father brunch. Last week you had brother-in-law on, and he did his thing, talking about parenting, and that's the thing that I love about listening to fathers talk, is that we learn different styles and different things from fathers, right? And so I learned to listen to fathers. That's why it's called Good Fathers Only, because I wanted to learn literally from other fathers. So talk about quickly, right, Pops, the reason why that award and why it was Damon, right? And then tell everybody where they can reach you at.
So this awesome opportunity to honor fatherhood through my father being that model for me, and for our other co-hosts of this event, Crystal L. Gunn, and Dr. Suzanne Jarrett, our fathers and the impact that they've had on our lives. We wanted to honor them, and also honor them by creating this award. And each one of us take a look at that award. So the 3 areas that we believe fatherhood is native to fatherhood. So providing, protecting, and problem solving. And each one of us, our fathers, we know represents at least one, all, if not all, one of those things. And we honor them by sharing this award with men who we believe exhibit those very fatherhood characteristics of protector, provider, and problem solver. And so those 3 men were selected. Each one of us selected someone in our network who we knew would earn, who have already earned and deserves this honor. So on Saturday, June 22nd, we are going to honor those 3 men and the names of our fathers with their designated award. And it's also an opportunity for other women who want to honor a husband, a son, a brother who you believe epitomizes fatherhood. It's a time for you to come and do a shout out for them too, and honor them in the process of this room of people who actually appreciate the fatherhood, the blessing of fatherhood. And so tickets are $15. You can register from my website under events, and you can do that right now, and that's www.yourinspiredjourney.com, and that's www.yourinspiredjourney.com. You can also reach me by phone at 313-759-7855. 313-759-7855. I'm really excited about this opportunity, and the more people, now they're limited seating too, by the way. So if you don't get your tickets right away, you don't want to miss out, and you want to miss an opportunity to honor that man in your life, whether he's your husband, dad, grandfather, godfather, however he is honoring the fatherhood, the blessing of fatherhood. This is an opportunity for you to have that chance too.
So, thank you. So we come to a closure, right? Just understanding how important your journey is, and wanting it to be, because there are thousands of people that don't have no idea of the things you've gone through and who you are. And that's for anybody that's had their hands to the plow. They didn't know. On the brunch, what a powerful thing. And as I, shared with you all, I think it's one of the powerful things. And women, you should take the time, because you're going to benefit from coming to say something kind about the father, just like he would if he said something kind about the mother. Just like you feel good, he wants to be and should be feeling good as well. So that event is going to be extraordinary. It's different, and it's an annual thing. So this is the first one. It's not going away. Same thing with the Fatherhood magazine. We launched it in D.C. We're taking fatherhood. Thank you. We're taking fatherhood to another level, because when it's our time, the departure should be on a different level, and that's the importance of restructuring and changing and impacting family. And that's what we do. And I'm very proud to have a vision, and then to run into someone who can help manifest vision alongside of you, right? And we both have the understanding that it's restoration of family for the culture, and it's restoration of family for this country, and it's restoration of family that anybody that comes in contact with us. And that's what we continue to do. And we do it to the boy because the boy has to have order. And so I am grateful for today. I chose today because it was simple, but more importantly, she needed to hear herself run back through who she is. And so she can acknowledge that through those memories and understanding that she called. And she's supposed to be validated, paid,